All right, and we're live. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully, everyone is ready because the Pokemon market crash is canceled. Destined Rival, Your face. Destined Rivals is here to save us, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're ready. Destined, I don't think it's an understatement. I think it's an understatement to say actually that it'll be 1,000 by the end of today. A booster box. What do you think, Alex? Do you think I'm being too conservative here? Or do we think it's going to go higher by the end of today?
Well, two things are usually true. Normally, we undershoot our expectations and our predictions, and also we always say we should have bought more.
It's true.
So take that for what you will.
Checks out to me, brother. Sounds like it's time to start buying Destined before it just pops off and saves everything. So, but no, in all seriousness, before we begin, as always, leave a like, comment down below, subscribe, helps the YouTube channel out. And then I'm gonna make a quick announcement before we actually get into it. Alex, this is a crazy announcement that we're gonna be making here. We are going to be closing all new spots in the wholesale program. So
What?
if someone leaves the program, we will not be opening up their spot. So
Man,
the
that sounds
anticipation,
brilliant.
so the anticipation is that we probably won't have any more spots available, presumably, until either something changes where the market like shifts and like things crash and we for some reason need more people because the volume's not enough in the program, or I have no clue. But
This
I
is
just
clearly an issue of gatekeeping here.
yeah, that's it. You got me red-handed.
Yeah.
So
Which I'm all for. I mean, I'm evil, right? So like, I get it.
yeah, I get it.
But for you to do something like this is unprecedented.
It's definitely crazy. Well, it's just one of those things where, in all seriousness, I know we're kind of joking a little bit here, but we're in a position right now where, with the overall current state of the hobby, there's not a lot of product available, right? And although I'd love to keep the program, 100% filled all the time, if someone leaves or whatever, it's much better for the program if we can offer product availability by having less competition.
I mean, that's relative though, right? Like 100% filled could mean anything.
Well,
it's still 100% filled technically, whether you have 100 spots, 150 spots, 200
yeah,
spots, like however many spots you decide on, it's still 100% filled.
but 200 members versus 150 members, you'd presume would make a difference for people with allocations.
Yeah.
We have no clue, obviously, what this is going to mean for the transition of how things are going to get handled from here on out. But I figured I'd let people know just because, the program itself has obviously, I mean, at this point, it's basically been sold out for so long. Since basically November, it's been sold out when we added the new slots originally. Every so often, we'll have like 1 or 2 spots open up at the end of a month. And since then, it's like, yeah. So we want to obviously do our best, though, to try and gauge the appropriate trajectory of how we want to continue to move forward with the program. So yeah, it's an interesting announcement, but definitely sad.
I mean, yeah, dude. And like, here's the thing, like, guys, I get absolutely $0 from the program. It's 100% Eli's business, so I have no reason to pump it or nothing. But as long as you are literally getting your guaranteed case of each set or whatever, you are literally making money on the program every single year. And so I know people are upset sometimes, like, oh, I didn't get enough. I want more of this, more of that. It's like, if you are literally making a profit, like, I mean, especially with the way the sets are going now, like you're probably making a profit for the year off a couple sets. And then the rest of the entire year is all like, is just pure, free run. And so it's just like, it still makes sense to be part of the program, even if it's not as like, you can't get as much product as you could, a year or 2 years ago or whatever. And so it's just like, I don't know how or why people would be leaving unless they have something going on in their lives or whatever, but it's literally profitable just to be in the program to get your kind of like guaranteed allocation of like 1 case of each, new release set and thing. So I get it, man. It still makes sense overall.
Well, and that's a good segue as well, because the big thing too that we noticed was, one, we already had less allocations, not a crazy amount, but slightly less allocations from Destin than we did Journey, which sucked. And one of the things though that I saw from like our top spenders, and other individuals that are contributing a lot to the growth of the program, they had their allocations cut or were significantly less because of the like case minimum that we offer in the program. And that's something I want to stick to keeping around, because I do want there to be a base minimum value where as long as you're in the program for 6 months, you get at least a 1 case minimum. And so for me, I'm like, all right, cool. As a lot of people continue to stick around in the program, that's obviously going to be something that will continue to take away from other people that might, have a history of spend. Obviously, there isn't exactly a ton to spend on right now, so it's not going to matter as much currently speaking. But when things start to kind of open up, I'm hoping that obviously we'll have less people that are going to be kind of drawing from that min allocation pool. And then it should allow us to have healthier allocations for people over time.
Smart move, man. And it's like, it's big of you too. It's like, this is not beneficial for you. It's literally geared just take care of the people that have stuck around and continue to support you in the program. So,
I mean, it's one of these things where like how we're handling it currently is what we're doing is because I talk to people about this, right? Because I don't want to raise prices on people in the program. That's kind of been my whole thing. We've had some additional expenses that I've taken on, and so I've refused to obviously increase the expenses of individual memberships for that reason. So the only thing that we're doing, and I kind of let people know this, is that for every new or for every member that leaves the program, that we close a spot, just to kind of help like ease the burden of the monthly membership cost. I'm raising the price of products 4 cents per $100. So if you have like an item that goes for like, $600, the price of it goes up by 24 cents. So
you animal.
Yeah. So, which in theory, that should hopefully supplement the loss of the membership, and then also as well make it in theory where we'll continue to obviously help things, kind of grow with allocation pool in the program. So
the post office raising the price per stamp play into that decision. I feel like it's around the same.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's actually gonna go to 5 cents with inflation pretty soon. No. Yeah, no.
Man.
I mean, you know me, man. My goal with the program to begin with was always about keeping my like bottom line for my customers as low as possible. And I made a promise that every time like we got pricing discounts that I would continue to lower them. Those of you guys that were a part of the program when we were like 50 or 100 members, we first charged 95 a booster box, and then it went to 94, 92, 90, 88, right? It just kept going down. And now obviously if distros do claw back, or, certain distros offer higher pricing, but we want access to their product because of scarcity, we're going to take the average of that. But, if you guys recall during Stellar, I mean, most of us ordered from distro 1 and we got, $88 just out all day. Right. And so we're always going to try and do our best to consistently keep things as cheap as possible for people.
Well, I want to talk about the thumbnail and the title of this thing, dude.
Yeah.
Destined Rivals has, I think, surprised a lot of people. I know myself, like even myself, I was, I was looking at kind of what's happened with Journey and, just kind of keeping an eye on some of the things in the market. Obviously some singles are starting to, give a little of their runs back, especially with the illustrations and special illustration rares. And I even said on the stream, I think I was like, I could see it going to like 220 to 240s in there. And man, it is strong in the mid 250s, looking like, I mean, if this keeps up the sales volume with not a lot of product getting added, it could jump back in the 260s. We have the Mewtwo card already reversing. It did drop down in the low 300s. Now it's all the way back up. I believe it's close to $400 raw now. We see the first ones out of the gate selling at PSA 10 for $2,600 and $3,000 on eBay, telling me that, yeah, it's going to come down. But like, I think that card may still be a 4-figure card even after it comes down in a PSA 10. I mean, these are strong numbers for the hobby right now.
Were you paying attention to the price of Destined on set release?
Yeah, it had like almost like a flash crash down to like the 220s.
Yeah, it was interesting. Like the price of it went down $30-$40, and then immediately it like rebounded back up to 260. We're sitting
hundreds of boxes were sold. Hundreds.
Yeah, we're sitting right around 255 currently. So that's been obviously, showing us some strength in the market, but we kind of talked about this already. I don't know if you saw, but it's interesting kind of watching what Journey's doing. I mean, we said we don't believe that Destin would get below Journey. If it did, then I would be concerned. But Journey is very interesting. Because I feel like I keep seeing Journey like so volatilely ping pong. Like at one point it went up to 220 and then it went back down to 200 and then it went to 210 and now it's back to 200 again. I don't know what's going on with the price of Journey. All I know is that at least it seems to be currently its floor is around 200, but the price of it keeps adjusting. And I would almost argue too, it kind of switches around depending upon what Destined does. Like you saw the price obviously of Destined dropped down to 220 when Journey was at around 210, and then Journey dipped down to 200 as the same time, like literally in like confluence with one another. Its price adjusted. Of course, since then Journey hasn't gone up with the rebound of Destined, so we have no clue what's going to happen with that. But I mean, now you're definitely seeing Destined stay strong since its release.
Dude, think about this. For the first time in the Pokemon hobby, there is not a single booster box under $200 in any era. That's crazy.
Wow. We could have never said that for Sword and Shield even, dude.
Sun and Moon, like I remember how long Crimson Invasion sat under 200?
Steam Siege
sat under, even like Fates Collide sat under for a long time. Like, dude, we've never seen this. I mean, it's kind of unprecedented, and that's what kind of gets me to believe maybe the standard market price is just going to be higher in the future. I don't know.
Yeah, I think overall, because we were kind of talking about it. All right, what's our predictions going to be for Destin, right? I already mentioned it. Our prediction was it's not going to drop below Journey. Obviously, didn't do that. Very unlikely that was going to happen. But the question was, how low do we think it was going to drop, right? And so our kind of prediction was, especially because if you remember, right, the price was right around what, 265, 270 when we were talking. And so realistically, we were like, okay, 230, 235 is kind of where we thought it had a possibility of dropping. It dropped below that, but it got bought up so fast that it just didn't last. So it is showing us right now that, okay, that drop that we were anticipating did happen, but it was so quick because the demand for that set, it's not going to stick around at that price as it stands currently. We'll have to see, obviously, what's going to change here if more supply comes on the market, as we always adjust things. But at least in the meantime, my anticipation is that this set is probably going to hover right around 250. And I doubt it'll make any sort of big moves to the downside just based on the fact that there's so much upward pressure to purchase it.
Yeah, I mean, and as far as like, that new market price or that new, like, kind of floor, I mean, we could seriously get to a point where MSRP kind of becomes like the unofficial floor, whereas like weak sets may drop down to 130 to 140, strong sets may be a little above that, 180 to 200 in the future. Like, MSRP may become like a real factor, like as crazy as that sounds. Anyone newer to the hobby, I know like nowadays people like see MSRP as like a deal and they run around all the Targets and Walmarts and they try to log on to all these sites and get these like, notification groups. The reality is if you go watch like even my content from even like you go watch these live streams from a couple of years ago, the conversation is Brilliant Stars a buy at Pokemon Center because now the market price is finally eclipsing, the MSRP. Like that was the deal. The big thing always was with a set is when the market price eclipsed MSRP. And usually it didn't happen for like, a year, 2 years plus after release. And that's why you saw all these Sword and Shield boxes on Pokemon Center 2 years later. And so it's funny to see that like MSRP is seen as a deal, but the reality is it's like MSRP was never bought by anyone that was like deep in the hobby at all. It was for like, moms and dads trying to get stuff for their kids, like off the shelf. It was almost an impulse purchase, but everyone who was serious about the hobby, they'd get online and they didn't have a distro. They'd go to People About Pete. They'd go to Safari Zone and they would buy products for much less than and Pokemon Center stuff never sold. never sold out. Even PCETBs back in Sword and Shield never sold out. And
Surging
so it's
sat
really,
for months.
yeah, so it's really strange to see the change. And I just don't know if we go back to that with the amount of confidence and like long-term data that we have now.
I think you have to look at it, and you know, I could be 100% wrong with this take, and if I am, great, I'll make my, concessions. I think two things are not going to be true at once here. I think one, the price of the product, if it's above MSRP, then more than likely there will be a continuation of scarcity for said product at distro pages, or just most product in general. But obviously, it's one thing to say the product is not being printed versus it's currently being printed and there's just no availability because everyone's buying it up. I think if that's the case, right, then obviously there's not going to be product availability. If the item is widely available at distro pages, then the anticipation it would be significantly below MSRP.
Right, but that's the problem, right? Like it's almost like it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy type thing. If the product stays above, not even above MSRP, just above, 130, 140, like there's still so much profit on the bone there that why would card shops and sellers not always take their full allocations? Like the only reason product got so plentiful is because card shops would literally put in small orders because you couldn't do much with it. Boxes were coming out. People bought Pete, had them for $9,500. Far Zone had them cheap, and card stores literally couldn't make that much profit. They couldn't move them that fast because they were everywhere. And so it's like, for that to happen, prices would need to get like a sub 120, 110 to the point where like you just can't move them fast enough, and it's not for it to ever be available again. Otherwise, I don't see the availability ever really rising, because like your program, why would anyone in your program not take their full allocation, even if the boxes were 130? There's still $35 of profit on the bone for every box. There'd be no reason not to always take it all.
Well, that's the point though that I guess I'm articulating here is like, I hate that this is the reality of how just markets work, but it is what it is. When it comes to product availability, if there is any margin to be made, like decent margin, then product will not sit because it's easy, right? Anyone with half a brain cell can go buy a product for $95 and sell it for $140 on the secondary market, eBay, TCG Player, doesn't matter. So easy to move, right? But if you're someone that's buying product for $95 and you have to sell it for $105, $110, that's going to be significantly harder and product will sit, right? And so the expectation is kind of like $130, $140. The items will not last on distribution for that long, and then prices will begin to aggressively rise because that becomes a point in which people are going to be able to make margin off of it. And then obviously as it begins to leave distro pages, we've seen a huge correlation between price rise aggressively after that happens. And then obviously you of course start getting to the point in which you hit above 160 or 166 to be specific, which is the MSRP floor. Once you start breaking past that, then you also now have to take scalpers into consideration too with that. So you've got like two forms of upwards pressure that's going to obviously be applied in the pricing. So it's like either you're going to have no product availability at distro pages because there's no money to be made, or because there's a ton of money or decent money to be made, or you're going to have a lot of availability because margins are super thin. Like I don't see a world in which there's margins and it doesn't just immediately dry up at distro pages.
Well, I'll scare everyone even worse, like going into the whole rip and ship side, right? Rip and ship side, like my side of things. So people think that like once the product is more available or it's back to MSRP, like rip and ships are killed. But it's like, think about this. I just did the math on calculator. At $3.50 a pack, that is on 36 packs, that's $126 a box. So even if boxes were at $126 and you could get them from distro, you could realistically charge full MSRP on a stream, $4.50 a pack. Most people don't pay sales tax on a site. You're still getting them under what you would pay at a Target, Walmart. You're still making a margin and you're still able to clear out distributors even at the markets at 126 a box. So it's like for things that really stop getting cleared out, dude, they need to get back to like 110.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like it's got to, I mean, and two, you have to think about it as well. Cause like take Destin out of it, right? Destin's high volume. Just let's talk about sets that have potential to be reprinted and realistically we can see drop below $200. If those sets drop into, 160, 170, I don't see it just stopping there because scalpers all of a sudden are going to get taken out of the market for that specific product because there's no margin to be made off of it, right? So it's like there's not going to be this ever balance where people are going to charge MSRP. It's either going to be aggressively above or aggressively below. So you always have to ask yourself the question, like, will Pokemon ever see a balanced market? I've been in the space forever. I know you've been in it for a long time. I've literally been, collecting since I was 5 or 6 years old.
It's never been balanced.
I can't speak to a time where I've ever seen a balanced market. It's either really over expensive or really underpriced. Like, I don't know.
You got to believe, like, obviously I have no idea, but you have to believe Pokemon is trying their best to keep it balanced. And while doing so, they're having a lot of stuff that's underprinted and people are unhappy, but I think they're desperately trying not to overcorrect this time.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that I suggest they do this, but map is kind of the only other thing I could think of they could do at this point. Right. Or of course you just start taking it directly out of, anyone that's going to affect the price by not selling at MSRP.
I mean, you could always,
so map.
It's not hard to get every seller to sign a contract. Yeah. I mean,
yeah, it's tough. I don't know, man. I feel like as it stands currently, especially with the way in which Destin's going, it's showing that there's a lot of strength still in the market, especially for a set, which we knew was going to be this hyped, right? That was kind of the anticipation, was this set was going to be, the most anticipated one we were going to have released. So it really just comes down to after this, all right, how is black and white going to hold up? How's that going to handle? And what's pre-sales going to start looking like for it?
Yeah, and it's funny because like I try to warn everyone too that you know how the online communities are so weird that they have to be negative about stuff. It doesn't matter what it is. Like they'll find something to be negative. It'll be your birthday. It'll be like, oh well, the cake sucked, and whatever. Like, and so it's just like Destined Rivals is a great set. I mean, obviously you could always say I wanted this or I wanted that. I should have did this different, but it's a great set. Pull rates are just hard enough to keep a chase there. It's big enough set to keep the chase alive. The Mewtwo may not be the best Mewtwo in the world, but it still hits. It's got tons of great hits, both illustration and SIRs, and people love opening it, right? And so I think it's just fulfilling all of the kind of expectations people had, and all the negative Nancy's online refuse to see it. They just come up with these new reasons, like it's got to be a manipulation. It's all the big card shops getting together and keeping the prices high. It's like, no, it's just people actually like the set. The hype was real. It's still here. And people are opening it in mass and buying it in mass, which is keeping things afloat. Like there's nothing else to this. It's just simple supply and demand. People want it more than the supplies out there. Like, and Journey Together, why is it dropping? Why is it, it's $200? Why are the cards dropping? People don't want Clefairy as much as they do a Mewtwo. And it's also easier to hit Clefairy than it is Mewtwo.
Yeah. I mean, Mewtwo, Garchomp, some of these other cards in the set, I mean, people love them, right? Team Rocket is a popular, a popular part of the Pokemon anime, right? Like people just absolutely love to be able to collect some of the cards of their favorite characters. Those are the ones that perform the best, as we've seen historically speaking. So having an entire set built around that, it just kind of was a recipe for success. And then you also add in some other, popular fan favorite characters like Cynthia. And Misty, right? It's like, I don't know.
One thing I hate about having like a bigger, a bigger following and channel is that no matter what opinion you put out, it's going to be like, dissected, and you're going to be almost like blamed for like part of like everything. Right. Where it's like when our channels were really small, like we were just starting out and stuff, no one give a crap what we said. Right. But like, if like, put it this way, if I ask you a question right now, if I go, Eli, in your honest opinion, when do you think things will actually start to get more available and prices will actually come down? Right. And you can say whatever you want. But if we both say, I think it's going to be probably mid 2026 or later, people are going to be like, they're trying to create FOMO. See, they're shilling. And it's just like, so you just care about our opinions. We have a few extra followers. Now it's so stupid. But like, I actually feel that. I'm not trying to shill anything, not trying to get anyone to FOMO, not trying to keep prices high because I want my investments to stay up. I truly do not see a world, because things move slow in this world, where we have product at, infinite availability. You can go to a distro site and buy stuff that isn't sold out. I don't think we get there this year.
I will say, I feel like I've always had that though. Like, I don't know if it's just me, but I always felt like I've had people always criticize me regardless, because either one, I'd be like, they'd say the investing sphere as a whole, it wasn't one of these things where I was necessarily the target, but I was a part of the problem.
Yeah.
And then number two, if I ever made a take about something, it was either one, because I was trying to pump my own bags, or it was two, because I was trying to, it just always was something having to, of course, the only reason why he's saying this is because he's trying to benefit himself in one way.
Right.
Right. It was just like,
that's what I'm saying. We almost can't even give our legitimate opinions anymore on stuff, because people constantly think there's like an ulterior motive, where it's just like, dude, it would be infinitely better for me if I could get product from my own distributor, and I could get more from Eli's program, and I could get tons of product at distro pricing, and everyone else was paying MSRP. I'd be better off than right now, where I can't get anything. I'm buying everything at market. And so it's literally not in my favor to talk like this, but I truly cannot see it getting better this year. We're looking, I think, mid 2026 at this point.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I mean, all I can say is that there's going to be a lot of pressure on the black and white set and whatever is going to happen with that. And then from there, it just really comes down to what's going to be afterwards. I know we've got Inferno X is the name of the set. It's going to be a Charizard set. It's entirely possible that, that set will continue to keep the market stable in a way.
And that takes us into the holidays. Like,
yeah.
It's like we got black and white in July. That'll probably be in August, September. And now that takes us into the holidays. The holidays aren't going to be slow. So it's like, if anyone says it's not 2026, you guys are just shilling or trying to, it's just like, well, what's your reasoning that you think it's going to come down any sooner? There's literally nothing that shows us that. Even everything's strong, like crypto strong, the stock market's strong, real estate steady. I wouldn't call it like strong, but it's steady. Like, there's just nothing that's showing any time, like, sense of slowing down right now.
Yeah, July 18th is what I'm seeing. Man, that's so quick. What an insane turnaround time that the set's going to come out. Is that the actual release date for the entire set is July? Do you know? Can you confirm that, Alex?
Yeah, it's supposed to be July.
Wow, no, but like July 18th is the release date.
Oh, I haven't looked at the exact date. It sounds correct.
That's what I'm seeing. That sounds crazy.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. That just feels weird. I'm like, is that the pre-release? Because that just feels so soon that we're gonna have that set. I mean, literally, what's that? A month and a half?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. I think that's a insane turnaround that we have, right? I mean, dude, speaking of crazy, I mean, just talking about the overall encompassing card market as a whole, dude, we got Final Fantasy pre-release this week. Like, dude, it's insane right now.
What is a pack? What is a collector pack gonna cost?
I can tell you right now.
Like, we think we have it bad in Pokemon. People complain like Prismatic Evolutions is a $12 pack, Alex.
Collector packs are selling for $70 right now.
Final Fantasy is like, hold my beer.
Yeah. No, it's insane. One thing that I will say that is extremely infuriating. So obviously, I talked about this, right? I talked about this to you before stream. So I was selling in shop. So first and foremost, our shop is officially a year old now as of June 1st. And so the week in the lead up to June 1st, we were doing a special where we were offering 10% on all products in shop, right? And then on top of that, what we had done is we like to price things below market price, just because like we just don't think it's appropriate to charge so much for a Destined box. So we charged 10% below for most major new set releases, right? And so we had 10% below, and then we also had a 10% additional discount on top of that. So we were selling our boxes in shop for right around $210 when the price was around $260. So $50 under what market price was. And with that still being said, I was making over 120 or 130% margin because we were buying boxes for right around the 90s, right? And so that's fantastic. That feels great. Like, very grateful that I was obviously had the opportunity to purchase products, still offer a fantastic deal, and then make good margins doing it. Now, the thing that I guess infuriates me the most about this whole Final Fantasy set is that you're being charged specifically for collectors significantly more, right? Compared to like a traditional booster box. So I'm trying to see if I can look it up real quick to see how much we were being charged for our collectors. Bear with me 2 seconds here.
It's funny too, because I was in my local LGS today, and we were like over in the sports section, and it's just like, and then you go to sports, and it's even crazier. Like some of the sports boxes, they're like, you know, they're literally 2024, 2025 sets, and they're $700-800. People just buy them, like rip them right there in the store. I just think the Pokemon hobby is so, we've been so spoiled with cheap packs for so long. And it's almost like now it's starting to not even catch up anywhere near, but it's like getting just a little bit more expensive, and people are losing their minds. If they would just go to some of these other hobbies like sports or Magic, it's like, do you know what these guys pay for like collector packs or like these sports packs? Like, you know, $50, $100 packs is normal.
So I'm looking right now, depending upon our distro, we're paying right around $300 a collector, which is insane, right? So we're paying over triple of what our baseline cost is for boosters of Pokemon compared to collectors. And, you know, that's one of the reasons why the price is so expensive. So I guess all this to say, it's a really frustrating situation as like a retail hobby shop, because it's not one of these things where I can just go and like say, yeah, I'll drop the price of the box to like 330. Like, I'm losing money if I do that. Like, it's not something that is possible to be able to offer such a significant discount, right? Like, you know, I don't have any sort of
We need to
knowledge of
talk
what
about the elephant in the room though, Eli.
I don't know how much I'm going to charge the boxes for in shop, but let's say I charge 650, right? Maybe charge like 675, which is like $50 below. It's going to feel not as significant of a difference than
But I
what
want to
we
know the
charge
elephant
at
in the room
Pokemon.
question.
Oh boy.
What is the MSRP?
Yeah, right.
What is
They
it?
did bring MSRP back.
Well, what is it for Final Fantasy?
Let me double check. For Final
I want to know
Fantasy.
what the MSRP is.
Yeah, right. You can only imagine what the MSRP is.
Alfred says 456
for MSRP. Yeah. 456 is the MSRP. There you go.
Do you think if Pokemon, like hypothetically, put their MSRP at $200, do you think people would accept it, or they would just be unhappy to pay $200? Like, what if Pokemon came out and said our MSRP is 200, and then you sell a box for 200? Would people be okay since it's technically MSRP, or would they still be upset because it's expensive? That's my question.
They'd probably do the exact same thing. Consumers would do the exact same thing they're doing right now with the increase in pricing for Nintendo games. They would complain about it and say how outrageous it is that like people are charging this much for the new Switch 2 and that they're going to be charging $89 for new games, and then it'll sell
they buy
in
it
30
anyway.
Seconds. Yeah.
And
like literally anyway. The amount of hate people were saying, which don't get me wrong, like people were less upset about the Switch 2 price increase and more upset about the game increase. But even then, like Switch 2 sold out in I think 30 seconds or a minute. I can't remember how like expensive it was, or sorry, how quickly it sold out. So like, yeah, people are full of it. Like, but that's the thing, right? It's kind of like just the US in general, right? How long is like, I'm not trying to get political here, but like, how long have we heard from consumers that we want to like balance the budget? And then literally whenever a politician on either side comes in, they just don't touch it because they know it's political suicide, because consumers will be upset regardless of what you cut. So like, that's kind of our thing, right? Like we run up a balance and or we're like upset about prices, you know, getting higher or whatever. But ultimately, like, I don't know, people still do it, right? Like,
well, it's kind of like the whole
I feel like boycotts are not exactly extremely successful in this country. Like people will have such momentary boycotts that result in not going anywhere. Like, because people eventually will just give in to wanting what they want, you know?
The Taylor Swift concerts where everyone was complaining about the resale ticket prices. But guess what? Ticketmaster and all those places had sales every day on those resale ticket prices.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like
it's funny because like the It's truly a free market. If people truly didn't want to pay the prices, things would not sell. Stores would get overlogged with inventory. They would have to lower the prices. The reason the prices aren't going down is people are buying them. I know you aren't, right? So whoever's out there, it's upset. I know, like, maybe there's like the, the army online that, like, wants to burn everything down. They're not buying it, but guess what? Hundreds of thousands, millions of people are, and that's why it stays up.
Yeah. No, 100%. I think that as long as it's something that people have expendable income to pay for, people will buy it. It becomes, once it's unaffordable to the everyday consumer, I feel like is when that begins to change, right? I mean, heck, I have not to get too far off topic here, but I'm still on topic with this. I don't know how many times I've been so upset with the fact that, like, the double cheeseburger at McDonald's is now going for like double, almost triple what it originally was selling for, like just before COVID. But at the same time, every time I drive past a like McDonald's, there's still always a line through the drive-through. And it's just like, but it's fast food, right? It's not like something you need. Like, I don't know.
And I don't know how many people remember 08, but like after the whole 07, 08 crisis, the real estate crisis, there was like, that's when, like, I think that's when the dollar menu started. But that's when, like, there was deals everywhere. You could always go find like something for $1, this or that. You know why that was, guys? That wasn't because all the companies got together and said, you know what? Out of the goodness of our corporate hearts, we're going to take care of the citizens. No, they did that to sell more of their product because they weren't selling enough. They had to start competing. And then when there's too many people wanting the product, they say, oh, we can raise it a little bit. Oh, our demand didn't go down. We're still making the same amount of sales. Let's raise the price a little more. And they find that equilibrium. It's not that, like, no one's controlling the prices but us. We're the ones controlling it.
Yeah. No, it's the reality of the situation at hand, which is, much as I hate to say it, when the economy is doing bad, that's when things usually start to kind of correct course in terms of their price, because corporations understand that when people can't afford things because the market's doing bad, then they're not going to be able to, rely on the consumer being able to use their expendable income. So, but when consumer confidence is at an all-time high and or, expendable income is available to consumers, then they're going to obviously continue to feel confident in keeping their prices where they are, or continue raising them. I think what becomes even trickier is that we live in a society now, within the past like 20 years, there's been such an evolution with credit cards and consumer debt that it feels like there's so much more expendable, I shouldn't say expendable income. There's so much more access to, spend because of people borrowing, that it really doesn't show the greater picture of where most Americans are when it comes to what actually they have versus what they're going to spend. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah. And another thing I want to say about the market too, it's funny because everyone always watches the sealed market and worries about the stores and the scalpers and but here's one thing, other than like some special releases here or there, I remember they had, like, one comes to mind. They had that like 24 karat gold Pikachu back in like 2016. Pokemon's had like some very small instances. One thing Pokemon really doesn't do, though, they don't sell single cards. So do you guys realize what the thing that makes up all these prices is? You and me, like, we do it. The TCG player, the eBay, the single cards, it's someone throws a card at auction and all these people bid on it, and they all agree that, like, oh, someone eventually pays that price, and then like more sell, and like after a bunch of sales, the market price is established because enough people all want to pay around the same price for something. Pokemon doesn't set prices for singles. They don't say, okay, guys, Destined Rivals is coming out. This is going to be a $300 MSRP card. There's no MSRP on singles. Me and you set the freaking price. Meaning, if people didn't want it and really didn't want to buy it, all they have to do is just don't buy any of the singles, and guess what? The box won't be worth much.
Yeah.
It's that simple, but everyone just they want someone to point fingers at and blame. Whenever you like turn it back on them and say things like that, people want to say, well, it's like they get stuck in their, quicksand or something. And it's just, the singles market is completely free market. The Pokemon doesn't sell it. Distributors don't sell it. Stores resell it, right? Or they open product and sell it themselves, but we make up the market of single cards.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
No, 100%. We'll see, obviously, what the future is going to lie for, the market itself. But like we've said before, and like I've said before, right now we're going to go with the trends. The trend shows that we've got a lot of strength in the market. That doesn't seem like it's going to slow down with the black and white set, and with the anticipation of Inferno being the next set after that, which is going to be another Charizard set. You got to assume it's going to keep that way. So until we really start to see some change in either consumer demand and or just a drastic increase of supply, I think things, as much as I hate to say it, are going to stay the same.
If black and white gets us through the rest of the summer months, it's gonna be bad by Christmas time, in my opinion. Summer was like the one chance we had to have things kind of cool off a little bit. It ain't working.
Yeah, I don't know. It'll definitely be interesting because it'll be interesting to watch.
Because it gets released like mid-July. That's going to carry it at least a few weeks of like hype. Like we're going to be in the mid-August, beginning mid-August. Like once September gets here, kids go back to school. Everything kind of gets back to normal life. All the pools and stuff close. Outside activities slow down. The vacations are usually over. Money starts getting spent on hobbies again in September, guys. Like, and then going into freaking the holidays, November, December, dude, I'm telling you, if we get through summer because of the hype, all these sets are so great and stay high, I think it's going to be really dangerous come end of the year.
Yeah, I think that's definitely probable for sure. Before we jump to Q&A, which as mentioned, for those of you guys that are new, if you just type question before you ask your question, makes it easier for me as I scroll down to answer everyone's questions. But before we do that, make sure you leave a like, comment down below, subscribe. Really helps the YouTube channel. And then, of course, check out Alex. His content is, links down in the description below to check out his channel. But do you have any questions, or do you have anything you want to talk about before we move on to the Q&A section?
No, man, let's do it.
All right, so we'll go into questions. We'll start off with the super chat. Shout out to Did Jen. Thank you so much. Not a question, just a statement. Mid-era PSA 10s are spiking crazy, vintage booming.
Yeah, I mean, the vintage is definitely having a move now that modern's moved. But I mean, I don't know every single card. I know some of the ones I've looked at, modern has still outpaced them. It's just the numbers are bigger. Like people will show these vintage cards like, Alex, this one went from $10,000 to $18,000. And it's like, okay, but you have to understand it's up 80%, right? Where these Sword and Shield boxes, Scarlet Violet boxes, a lot of them are up like 100 to 200+%. And so, yeah, I mean, I still think if you put your money into modern at the same time, you're probably still doing better. But yeah, I mean, vintage is doing good too. And that's why I've always said that you can collect vintage and you're probably going to do well value wise, but I still think buying into modern boxes is going to be your best bet for just straight value.
Question: would it be wrong if Costco did the same thing and did their own Pokemon membership just to relax the amount of people trying to get drops? I mean,
a double membership.
Yeah, that seems unlikely. That doesn't seem like very Costco of Costco.
I think you should get a third membership if you want the hot dog.
Yeah, seriously. That's a great rebuttal, Alex. No, I don't. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. I mean, you're paying for a Costco membership. Like, it comes with everything Costco related, right? At that point, why would they require another membership? Why not just raise the price of what they're selling it for? But that kind of defeats the whole purpose of what Costco is trying to achieve, and also defeats the whole purpose of what Pokemon is trying to do by giving product to these big box retailers that are going to sell it for, a more affordable price for consumers.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What do you guys think of PC printing less in 2024? I think they were trying to price shock people to raise the floor. Allow GSs to actually make money. Any thoughts?
Of course they were. Like, guys, we've told you this multiple times. Pokemon does not want their boxes sub $100. They don't want it. I mean, I would think they want it near MSRP because they set the MSRP, so they suggested to be sold that much. So I think that's probably what they want. But they definitely don't want LGSs not making any money. They don't want them going out of business because they can't make money on sealed product. Whereas if you're getting product from distributors at $95, which most stores are, that don't have like, volume deals, you can't make money, especially after you're paying, for all of the expenses to have a store, your credit card processing fees, whatever else. I mean, employees, you have to be able to sell those boxes at least, I would say, in the 110, 120 plus range. And so I think, like me and Eli were saying, it's just like they probably overcorrected a little bit, to the high end, and they're going to try to bring it down. But it's like, it's kind of this constant thing where it's overcorrection, undercorrection. And so I think they're just trying to keep the prices somewhere in the middle of $80 a box and $250 a box. They're trying to find some equilibrium where it's healthy, and it's not easy to do.
Yeah.
And so they overshot to the high side this time.
With many desired set releases and upcoming, like Prismatic Destin, the upcoming double Flare and Bolt, how do you think this will affect the market / invest?
I mean, we just talked about how everything's going to affect the market. I mean, I don't think anything's going to slow down until prices get so low that stores don't want to max out their allocations because there's easy profits to be made. So as long as they keep making good sets that are in demand, it's going to stay a lot more of the same.
I mean, you're going to need a set like a Pokemon Go, or like at the time, obviously, an Astral Radiance.
Yeah,
that's going to slow it down. And specifically how it was timed is those sets were back to back. So it was one of those things where you went from Astral, which was like a leg down from Brilliant in most people's eyes, and then you went to Pokemon Go, which was even worse. And both those sets were released right around the time of summer, right?
Same thing happened with
Pokemon Go is July 1st. So it's like demand is slower during the summer. And on top of that, you also had 2 slow sets. So it's like, you kind of need something like that for Pokemon.
Same thing with like Crimson and Forbidden Light. Those are back to back, right? Oh, I guess Shining Legends was technically in the middle of those. But yeah, it was like Crimson Invasion, Shining Legends, Forbidden Light were all released kind of like simultaneously, and they were all lackluster sets at the time.
Is that the order? It was Shining Legends, then it was Burning, then Shining, then Crimson, then Ultra, then Forbidden Light.
Oh, okay, my bad.
Before. But still, I mean, Shining Legends followed by Crimson from Burning. Shining, as much as we look at it now, Shining was, like we've said this before, no one wanted Shining. The amount of clearance that was available for that at Walmart was insane. 35.
Now, Ultra Prism did do well, though.
Ultra Prism did great
because that was short printed, and they didn't get that very small reprint till really late. That was one of the few boxes that like was seemingly 130 immediately.
Yeah. Oh, how times have changed. Seeing all special sets are going to the moon. Do you think Hidden Fates is still too undervalued?
Well, Hidden Fates had a massive run already.
Yeah, it's finally starting to pick up. I think last time I checked, the ETBs were right around 300. Could be higher since I last looked. They're currently sitting at around 325. Yeah, so Hidden Fates is finally having its run. But you know what's depressing about it? I sit there, and as with most things, I'm like, oh, I should have picked some up, right? But literally, it sat at 170 for 4 years. Like, it's just like,
Again, we need to slow our roll because that is still an extremely good investment. People in the Pokemon hobby are way too overzealous with these gains. That is still an incredible investment. Dude, if you went to any investment advisor on the earth and said, hey, I have this terrible investment, it only doubled in price in the last 4 years, they would look at you and slap you and be like, oh, so you beat like every mutual fund and every S&P index, you beat everything and you're upset? It's crazy.
Yeah.
We're so spoiled in this hobby that they're so used to these unrealized, or these I'm searching for the word, but like these impossible gains in like any other like investing world. Like you're not going to see that in real estate. You're not going to see that in the stock market. You might see it in like a single crypto, but you're going to take on far more risk. You're not going to see this in anywhere else. But in this hobby, it's just like, well, yeah, but I could have bought Evolving Skies. I could have bought Team Up. It's just like, yeah, or you could have been sitting on some stock in the stock market that's been flat for the past 10 years.
Well, that's the crazy thing is Pokemon's literally outpaced crypto.
Yeah. There's a hole.
Like, yeah, like literally, if you said to yourself, all right, should I have invested in Bitcoin back when it was at 30 grand, right? We're not even talking like 60 grand. We're talking $30,000. Or should I have gone and bought a Lost Origin booster box when it was at right around 110? You would have made significantly more money going
Well,
and
Eli,
getting that.
it's the number. That's why I said before, people, they have a really weird relationship with numbers. Like the whole vintage boom right now. People have sent me like these like screenshots. Like, Alex, don't you wish you would have got vintage now? And I'm like, well, that card went from, like I said, like 10 to 18 grand. So you're up 80%. And I'll just be like, do you want me to send you a list of everything I'm up 80% in that time period?
Yeah.
And it's same thing with like crypto. It's like people are like, Alex, what if Bitcoin goes to 250,000? Like, okay, well, that's like a box going from 200 to 350. Do I not think there's going to be a bunch of boxes right now at 200 that are 350 plus by the time Bitcoin goes to 250? It's just because people see the $100,000 number. Put $100,000 into a Pokemon boxes. I bet you'll probably do better.
I'm actually curious to see, when was the last time that Bitcoin was at around 30K? It's been a minute, hasn't it? If we're looking at it, the last time it was at 30K was at the end of 2023. Wow. So it was dude, this is insane. So it was the first time it came back to 30K was right around the same time of the Lost Origin reprint. So that's actually hilarious. So you could literally say in 2023, would you have preferred to have bought Bitcoin at 30K, or would you prefer to have bought the Lost Origin at the exact same time? Hell, you could even say, would you have preferred to buy Lost Origin? I mean, even if you bought Bitcoin at 20,000, it still would have outpaced it, which is wild to think about.
And Lost Origin is not even like the top thing. Like, what about Evolving Skies? What was Evolving Skies at in 23?
Yeah.
Like what was Team Up at in 23? What was
I like using Lost Origin better because Evolving is such an anomaly, right? Whereas Lost Origin, I mean, if you look at
just take
Lost
every
Origin,
XY Sun and Moon set, dude.
Yeah.
Like all those are exponentially. It's crazy.
So much money. Alex said last week during the Destined Rivals Rip and Ship were some of the biggest he's ever done at launch. Do you think this is an indicator of the future set's value?
It is true. We ripped over 6 cases the opening night, and as of now, we're through. We've been through what, 7 streams now, and we're over 20 cases in, so that's pretty good.
I mean, granted, we were offering a really good deal. We were the cheapest in the valley. I think the next cheapest shop was at right around 230, 235. So we were significantly below most people. But we did in one day, we did about 50% more than what our previous daily sales record was. So,
and speaking to Koga 666, they said we're cherry picking. We're not cherry picking because Bitcoin is cherry picking. Like, we're picking the top crop crypto asset, right? Like, if you want to take like the top 10 cryptos and how they performed in the last couple of years, and then take the top 10 Pokemon items, Pokemon crushes it. Like, are we going to take the average performing cryptos? Okay, take the average performing Pokemon items. Like, you can't take the top crypto items and then like take lesser Pokemon items. It has to be apples to apples. It'd be like taking a mutual fund and saying, well, you can't use Tesla or Apple or Nvidia, or you can't use those. It's like, what do you mean? They're in the mutual fund. You see what I'm saying? Like, you can't, it's cherry picking, not using the top performers, right?
Yeah, because like if I were to use a different example, like let's take Cardano, right? Cardano or ADA. That's like one of my favorite cryptos. I'm a huge fan of Project Shelly. That crypto you could have bought back in 2022 for around 33 cents. And it's currently sitting at 69 cents. So you're doing a little bit over double. Whereas with Bitcoin, if you bought it back in 2022 when it was around $20,000, you would have 5x your money. And so I was using Bitcoin as an example compared to some of the other, altcoins, because the rate of return on Bitcoin recently has began to outperform some of like the top performing like altcoins. Don't get me wrong, there's probably like another altcoin that I'm not seeing that's obviously gotten a greater rate of return. Like, yeah. But I'm just going off of a whole, I mean,
there's penny stocks on Wall Street that are, here, Palantir, go look at what Palantir was going for. I mean, it's like of course, there's always going to be outliers that have ridiculous gains. But like, here's the thing, right? You're not going to make these kind of gains, in my opinion, without taking on more risk. If you're taking now, Bitcoin in 2012, insane more risk than Bitcoin in 2025. Everyone would agree with that, right? It was unproven back then. It wasn't widely accepted, right? It's like, Amazon or Apple when it was brand new IPO company, insane amounts of risk. Amazon, Apple now, not much risk, but way less gains you're going to see. And so it's like, yeah, I'm sure you can find stuff out there that'll beat Pokemon. Don't get me wrong, but taking the similar amount of risk with the amount of with 100% data on Pokemon, guys, there's not a Pokemon box in history that hasn't gone up in value. So you have 100% track record. I mean, if you can find something else that has that much of, that much confidence, that much like level of risk, let me know. We'll compare them.
Right. And if you go back and look at it and you just say, okay, let's take a different box, Silver Tempest, right? If you just choose Silver Tempest, when it had its reprint, it's at 340, right? That's triple. That still is beating crypto. Like literally, you were buying Silver Tempest for around $100 a box, and it's now sitting at 340. So you've got about a 340% return. And crypto, like I said, going back to it, was going for around $33, and it's around 100,000 right now. So it's around 30%, or it's around 300%. So you're still making slightly more with Silver Tempest, which performs significantly worse than what Lost Origin did. So it's like, I don't know. Like we can keep looking at the rest of the Sun and Moon and Sword and Shield era. There's so many items that you could look at.
Dude, you could put every XY and Sun and Moon set on a wheel and spin it, and you could spin that thing probably 10 times, and I don't think you're gonna find a set that didn't perform that well. Like, so it's like this whole like idea of we're like cherry picking, dude. It's like almost every set. I mean, Pokemon just outperforming everything. It just is what it is.
Yeah. Would you rather buy like a Brilliant Star booster box or 151 Pokemon Center for investing purposes? I already know my answer.
Booster box.
Yep, I agree. That's simple.
If you're asking 151 at release or like around $100, I'll take the 151, but I'm not buying at $500. Did Eli freeze out? Eli, we lost you. All right, guys. I guess I'm in control now. I'm taking the questions. Here we go. Now things get very dangerous. Uh-oh.
Am I back?
Oh, Eli Inception. This is crazy. There's two of them.
Dude. Oh, is there two of me?
Oh, dang it. Put them back. I want to hear what he has to say.
Dude, I literally saw...
There's two Eli's. Did you guys even know that?
Dude, I saw at the top left. Well, I saw you freeze first, and I was like, it has to be me. And then I saw at the top left, it showed one bar of like you know how it has the signal for Wi-Fi? Yeah. I was like, what the frick? Which is annoying because
that's how you got you. That's how you built your business so fast. You have two of you.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy.
I bet Pokey does the same thing. I need to clone myself.
We already answered that question, obviously. What the heck, dude? That's so weird. Hold on, sorry. Oh man, that's weird. A lot of the questions aren't populating for me anymore because I had to refresh the screen. Oh, that's a bummer. Man, there's going to be some questions I'm not going to get. That's a bummer. Some people might have to re-ask their questions. Question for Eli. I apologize. I'm going to try and speed run some of the questions here so I can get caught up. So if I didn't have a question that, so just so everyone knows, questions that were made before 12:38, I did not see. So if I haven't seen yours and you posted your question a bit ago, I'm not going to see it. I'm at 12:50, so I should be pretty caught up with questions relatively soon here. So I do apologize. But question for me, what is the sudden move in EX era sealed and how far will it go? I mean, for me, it's pretty simple. Like EX era product is so scarce. Like it's so scarce. It's by far one of the scarcest eras that we have. And so when it comes to the moves that it's making, it's in very limited supply. And so it just isn't going to like be moves that are going to be done on high sales volume. It's going to be low sales volume. So when a big move happens, like I would implore people as well. And, you know, let's take EX era out of it. Let's take Diamond and Pearl era, right? Which is the following after, which is relatively scarce compared to EX, I would say. They're pretty similar in their scarcity. Diamond and Pearl boxes, if I want to find one, like right now, it is significantly harder to find one. Whereas before, I want to say like a year or two ago, they were scarce, but like I knew of so many people that were just constantly selling the boxes. And so with EX era kind of comparing it, there's just so much less available that I feel like we're seeing people sell. And then the ones that are selling it, they're selling it for a huge premium currently. And then also as well, you're seeing once again an appreciation of Gold Star cards continuing to climb in price and people feeling like they were undervalued, which there is honestly an argument to be made for that. I mean, the Mewtwo or the Mew Gold Star is one of my favorite cards. I was watching it forever and like it was selling for like 8 or 10 grand, which feels cheap when you were considering the fact of what the pricing was for some of the for like the Latios Latias card, which it's not relatively close in price, but compared to the age of the card, it felt like it was a good value. So I think it's just, you know, appreciation happening, especially with a continuation of scarcity. I don't know if you have any kind of add on to that, Alex.
No, it's just a low volume supply. I mean, it's kind of like if anyone watches like a stock trade, if you watch like a really low volume stock trade that trades like under 100,000 shares a day, you every buy, like usually they have really large swings or really large margins in between like the buy and the ask, and it'll jump all around, right? Like huge swings. Then when you watch something like Apple trade, it'll be like this, right? Like a million different sales. And that's all it is. It's like, you know, that's why you have such higher moves to the upside. And then just like after 2021, when things came down, you had such drastic moves to the downside. I mean, base set boxes went from $2,800, like $2,000, all the way up to like $30,000, and then came back down to like $11,000, $12,000, $13,000. Now they're back up to 20,000. So they have these really drastic swings up and down. Whereas like when there's tons of supply, they move up slower, but they usually don't come down like that.
Yeah. Alex went through over 15 quesadilla last weekend on his live stream. Is this an easy indicator of the set's success? I think we already answered this question earlier. Yeah,
everything is, dude. Price point of the box, the price point of Mewtwo going up. It's oozing success.
Do you think a reprint for Journey would drop Destined Rivals by association, thinking Destin would be next to get one? Ooh, I don't mind that. You know, it's funny. A part of me like wants to say no, but also at the same time, it's not the first time we've seen something like that happen. Where like a certain set that it's kind of like with Lost Origin Silver Tempest, right? They were so close together. Like there are instances in which sets are similarly paired. Fusion Strike, Chilling Reign. Like, but it's hard to say because I feel like a lot of the times these sets, when they do get reprints, they come out together with their reprints, right? Chilling Reign, Fusion Strike are reprinted at the same time. Chilling Lost Origin got reprinted at the same time. Unified Minds, Unbroken Bonds got reprinted at the same time. So like there's multiple different sets I can point to that were like reprinted right around the same time. Like Pokemon tends to pair it with two, I've noticed. It wasn't large reprints, but we had obviously reprints for Paldea. It was tiny, right? Paldea Obsidian, they were paired together. You had some product for Twilight Surging, they were paired together. So I would argue that considering the sets are back to back one another, there might be some kind of speculative fear, but I think considering how strong the set is, it probably won't do anything until the actual reprint happens, just based on the fact that Destined is kind of one of those sets that's extremely strong.
All right, hold on. Let me be classic bullish Alex. Let's not glaze over that, guys. The Paldea and Obsidian preprints came, and they dropped the boxes a whole $10.
Yeah,
so let's go ahead and make sure everyone knows that. So all the reprint people out there that think everything crashes, they dropped a whole $10. The prismatic reprint dropped the ETBs down from the 140s to the teens 120. So that was the big prismatic reprint. The Surging Sparks reprint dropped a little more, about 20% on the Surging Sparks reprint. So just understand that the reprints have happened. They are happening. They're just not doing what people expect. They're not going to crash things. They're going to correct them subtly, and they're going to go stagnant for some time. Then when they start to get bought up, the prices are going to rise again. That's how the market flows, guys. So like, I know it's fun to go watch all these crazy channels that like talk about reprints and talk about the prices are going to crash and everything's going to be, MSRP or $100 a box. We've had tons of reprints in the last couple of years. It doesn't happen.
Yeah, it's I don't know. We had a decent reprint with Prismatic. Like, it wasn't a small one. Like, it was an actual legit reprint where we got allocated product. And yes, some distros were charging over what typical wholesale was, but even then, that shouldn't matter too much. But
because it didn't drop as much as people expected it to, they want to write off the fact that we didn't get enough product. No, they did. There's just that much demand.
Yeah. Like
that reprint in 2022 would have significantly corrected a
set. That's what I was about to say. Literally, you had a similar size reprint happen with 151, which 151 was it's a good set, but it was during the time in which the market was slower, and you saw the price of it go from $80 to $50, which was a big deal because obviously, for the set, it was the first time it was right around MSRP. So it's like, it shows you the difference in the strength of the market when reprints that size will do. So they either need to do more reprints of Prismatic or just, that's just kind of it. They just need to do bigger reprints or more reprints or both.
I mean, when the Silver Tempest Lost Origin reprint came, it corrected those sets like 30%.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. Even bigger than that. Lost Origin was about to hit 200 a box. Like, it dropped like at least 40.
That was like the high, but like I remember it was already kind of like off the highs. It was like around 180 and then it corrected down to like 120-ish. I don't know. Maybe a little over 30%.
While whether or not there'll be a 151 regular ETB reprint is still an open question. Is there any shot 151 PC ETB reprints though, or is it something worth buying now?
I'm not saying it's something worth buying now. I will put 99.9%. You're not going to see a PC ETB reprint. A regular ETB reprint's probably even out of the question, but it's more likely. That's kind of my take. I'm definitely not saying it's worth buying though at $500.
I'm not buying, and I think the reprint's unlikely. There's, it's so funny. I'm not doing a 180 on PC stuff, but I was obviously someone that was a huge like fan of PC ETBs when they first came out. Like, so I mean, literally my one pin video of my channel is me talking about my top 10 favorite investments, and like 2 of them were like Pokemon Center ETBs. So I'm a fan, but with the current market and the way PC ETBs are, we're in uncharted territory. And so I feel like,
to be fair, we're both still fans of them.
They're just
under $100.
Yeah. How do we defeat the bots? PC and Walmart are trying. Oh, there's supposed to be a comma there. PC and Walmart are trying, but the bots are one step ahead. Seems like it's time for vigilante justice. How do we defeat the bots, Alex?
Oh, same way you defeat the scalpers, man.
See, but the thing is you can't steal, like, you can't physically steal from a 12-year-old in the same way as you can at a Costco in person. You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you do that, but like digitally?
Tell you what, why don't you go bot and scalp some Yu-Gi-Oh boxes and see how that goes?
Do we got to fight fire with fire? Do we got to start botting the botters?
Dude, you know my take on this. I think it's all ridiculous.
I know.
I think people are just upset that other people want the same things they want. It's crazy, isn't it?
It's hard, though. I mean, it's tough because it's one of those things where you as a consumer, I mean, what are you going to do? There's nothing you can do. Just kind of it. Like, it's a crappy situation because it is something that's in the market, right?
What would I do if you're asking me what I would do?
That's the question is asking.
I would do the exact thing that I tell everybody to do. People use this term that you can't find anything. I think it's ridiculous. because everyone's found everything for years and years before 2024, 2025. It's called eBay and TCG Player. You log on, you add it to, you find a seller that's got 10,000, 50,000 plus positive feedback. You add it to cart, it gets shipped to your house in about 3 to 5 days, and then you have the product. It's really simple.
Well, obviously they're talking about getting it not at scalp prices.
That's ridiculous, though.
Why is
Because
that ridiculous?
because like you're buying at market price. When the market price was $100 and you got on eBay and bought from P Football Pete, you didn't complain. Why don't you go buy from P Football Pete now? It's the same. It's all the same.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I will say this, just because maybe Alex and I are going to disagree, so I'll just at least make this this point of notion. I don't think bots are going to matter as much, because when you do the inspections on the sites, you had at one point for certain restocks 1+ million people in a queue. I highly doubt that half of those are bots. Even if half of them were bots, that's insane, right? So you have to just understand that even then, if you were to eliminate the botting problem, it won't take away the fact that there is an insane amount of demand for people rushing to stuff. I mean, here's a perfect example, right? Of like kind of comparing. So we have a lot of people that are in this space that use notification services or pay for notification services, right? In my own space of like credit card stuff that I do, there's this one service I paid for, and there was a recent article or something I read where they have 180,000 paying members to get access to like their notification services. So you have to consider,
Who has that?
It's called seats.arrow is the name of the website.
And it's a notification for what?
So it's a notification service / portal service that allows you to visibly see all the active deals that are going on for airline points. And so it's a lot easier because you don't have to navigate going on site by site and trying to see and then kind of calendar through calendar. So it kind of like trims everything for you to look a lot cleaner.
Okay.
But like you have to think about it. So when you're on the site, now you've got potential for well up to 180,000 people also seeing the exact same deal that you're seeing. And so like in that regard, I would argue that if anything, notification services are obviously playing just as big of a part as bots are, just based on the fact that you now have so many more consumers that are literally just waiting and ready to jump the gun on scalping the product.
Yeah, you're not going to stop anything. It's going to be like a toddler touching a stove, right? Toddler touches the stove, gets burnt, they never do it again. That's what it's going to be, right? You're going to have a set come out. It's going to be lackluster. It's going to be overprinted. It's going to be MSRP or less on the market, and everyone's going to get burnt so hard and lose all kind of money. And then the next set that comes out, they're going to say, "Ooh, I don't know." And that's how it's going to happen. But it's not going to happen any other way than organically. It's not going to be some like system they put in place to stop bots or to stop scalpers or limit for one per customer. That's not going to do it. It is going to be people are going to have to get their asses handed to them. They're going to have to lose thousands of dollars, and they're going to learn.
Some people are saying that probably, or most of them are bots. I have no way of knowing, right? I don't know if that's something that people can inspect and see. I don't know if Pokemon can know that for certain. I mean, we're playing the hypothetical game here, right? But like I said before, going back to it, you know, I think there's other things that are also playing a factor people aren't taking into consideration. Shout out to Mike. Thank you so much, Mike, for the $10. You think when JT gets reprinted, possibly dropping the price? He says a lot. There's supposed to be an image there, and I think it's not showing up. So I don't know what that image is. But would it drop DR price by association thinking will be the next to the gear? We already got asked this question. He
gave you a super chat. Why don't you answer it again?
Thanks, Mike. I'll answer it again, I guess. Long story short, no, I think it's unlikely just based on the fact that Destined is a strong set, and we've seen the strength of it right now. And like we mentioned earlier when we answered the question, we had a decent sized reprint with Prismatic Evolution, and that barely dropped the price by $20 when it got a reprint, let alone the word of a reprint for another set being, affected. So who knows?
Yeah.
All right. Sorry. Hold on one second. I got to scroll back up now.
Yeah, guys, here's the thing. It's like, I know the answers I give sometimes are not like, the greatest bedside manner type thing, but it's just like, I'm just letting you guys know the truth. It's not that I, am for people botting and notification groups and doing all this like stuff. I'm just telling you the way it is. Like, if people don't like to hear it, I'm not for it. I'm not like behind it. I'm just saying that like it's organic demand that gives scalpers a market. And if people are willing to pay more than MSRP for a product because they want it that bad, then it opens up the opportunity for someone to buy it at MSRP because they have a strategy to get it and sell it to the people that are willing to buy it for more. Because those people are just, they have the money, or they don't have the time to go out and, find it, or they don't want to sit online and try to, catch a drop, or they don't want to get a bot or a notification group. They just don't do that. They can't afford it, whatever. And, because of that, the only way to stop it is for it organically began. It's going to have to organically go away by this. Again, when the margins disappear and these people cannot sell product for a profit, then they all want to dump that product. The prices come down, and they come down significantly. And then the product is flushed on the market, and there's too much to go around. There's too much demand, right? Then the next set comes out. Everyone remembers what just happened and how many thousands of dollars they lost and how big of a, mess that was. And they say, I'm not going to order as many as last time. And then it consistently just kind of gets better from there.
Question: is there a world Pokemon catches up to demand with their supply, or do we think it's demand falling down? I think that my personal take is this. I think that it's a lot more likely that demand falls down this time around before they catch up with supply. However, there has obviously been, reports that they're looking into expanding their manufacturing. And so I think that the next bull market cycle around, you'd like to hope or assume that they'll be much better equipped for it with having higher printing capacity. But I don't think that's something that they'll be able to do with the current market cycle, since it is such new information.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously things they can do. It's just like, I think the better question is, will they do anything?
They will.
I mean, I think people like they focus on the negative side effects. They don't like focus on the positives, right? Like, there's a lot of positives to the market being like this. One in particular, card shops are able to do well. Like, the smaller ones aren't, but the established ones who had distribution lined up, like, they're all doing extremely well, right? I mean, I know the card shops around me, like, dude, it seems like they have more employees than there every time I go there. They're booming. They got, always lines at the counter, always people like taking stuff out. So they're doing well. Distributors are doing extremely well. All the, employees there, the sales reps there, they're all making tons of money because they're selling literally everything and then some, because they're making you take other stuff you wouldn't normally take. Pokemon's happy because they're able to just push anything and everything they print right onto distributors, because distributors just need everything, unlike before where they would talk and they'd be like, look, we already got tons of this stuff. We can't move, Pokemon. And so, like, there's a lot of people, a lot of parts of the business benefiting right now, where, unfortunately some of the consumers are suffering. And so it's like, there's goods and bads to this, guys. And I don't know if Pokemon is as unhappy as some of the people online are.
Yeah, I guess the only big thing is like, you have to assume there is a point of like consumer fatigue. So it's just a matter of like, but even then, like with consumer fatigue, we'll go back to the market that we were at previous to that, and the volume is still going to be high. It's just not going to be as like scalped. So I don't know. It's tough because like Alex does bring up a good point. Like, there is a positive to this market. I mean, I feel like you can always kind of spin a positive with most things. So
Armando said he had to park in the back at RNG last Sunday due to how many people were there.
Jeez.
Rob's killing it.
Yeah, dude, we've been sold out quite often on our Friday Night Magics at this point, and we've already had multiple people try and get themselves on a wait list to just be able to purchase product for our Final Fantasy pre-release. So it's crazy. Yeah. I don't know. It's hard. It's tough.
I mean, guys, just like, the whole, like, what would you do? Like, what would you do if you had something, right? that you had people lining up, throwing money at you, saying that I want to get on a wait list. I'll pay extra. What would you do? Would you sell it for less? Would you drop the price and run a sale? Sales are ran when businesses need to run product. Like, you have too many people wanting to buy this stuff at these prices. That is if you're running a company, if you're the owner of a company and you look at that, you say, I'm doing something right. You don't say, this is terrible. Just let that sink in.
Do you think Destin performs like Evolving, and then he says never drops in price as everyone's waiting for reprint/corrections, and it just keeps climbing the staircase?
It's just too early. It's too early to predict what happens in a year, 2 years from now when you could possibly get late reprints.
Well, and that's the thing. Evolving dropped twice. Evolving went from 200 and then got reprinted down to low 100s. And then it got a tiny, tiny reprint later that dropped it down to 120 or like 130, which of course, that didn't last like more than a month, but you still had the chance. So it's very much possible. The difference was between that is those reprints happened all within 6 months. And so the anticipation was, okay, the set's not even a year old yet. Why wouldn't there be more reprints? And so it was something that obviously didn't come to fruition. And with Destin being a set that literally just came out last week, there's a high probability that it's going to get to a point where it's going to have more supply in the market. The question just is going to be, where's going to be the health of the market when that happens, and how that'll affect what its floor is going to be as it continues to climb in the future.
Yeah.
All right, we'll get a couple more questions. We'll do 3 more and then we'll wrap out of here. When do we get a collab satire video like Alex made yesterday? I want to see Eli's dark troll side.
Dude, I do too. Cyber Gameway, I'm with you.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I didn't make a dark video, but if you guys remember when I did my castle video, that was me on my throne of battle academies. And then I made a snippet where at the very beginning of it, I was like, yeah, Alex wishes he had a castle like mine. And it then had on screen a picture of Alex and his throne of booster boxes that he had, comparing it, and then me just dogging on him.
Dude, so put it this way, guys, if I was Eli, you guys would be getting stupid content from me. Like, Eli, the amount of sealed product that goes through his hands, he can make so much content with it.
That is true.
You could troll people so hard with the amount of product you have and get so much hate, but you just choose not to.
I know. We got
we
got 12 or 15 pallets last week.
Could you imagine posting that and then putting in the caption saying yeah, I'm probably just gonna put all this in my warehouse and not distribute any of it because I just want to invest in it and I don't want the market to have it. Imagine making that video, how pissed off people would get.
Yeah, people would not be happy, that's for sure. People would be like, this guy, how could they? Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm just boring, dude. You'll get my troll side if you meet me in. Well, that's the hard thing is it is kind of weird, the dynamic between your relationship, professionally, how you are with your friends is so different, right? So we definitely, it's definitely, if you want to see me in my element, come to me when I'm in the shop and I'm hanging out with people at the shop, then you'll kind of see me in my element, if that makes sense. It's not too far off screen, but I'll definitely be a little bit more off color at times for sure. Question, why would someone pay, I think that's 10,000. Yeah. 10,000 plus for a booster box. 3 to 5 reasons, please. That's super easy for me to answer. I can give you more than 5. Go
ahead.
So to start, because he didn't specify, right? He didn't make any specifications other than pay $10,000. I'll start with this, right? I am a huge Diamond and Pearl fan, right? It's a big part of my childhood. Majestic Dawn booster boxes. I bought one, I want to say about 2 years ago for $5,500. And then previous to that, I bought it a year prior to that for $5,000. Since then, the box is probably sitting right around 10K, maybe a little bit more since the price has obviously gone up so much. With that, I personally would say that I'd be willing to purchase it at that price because it's a huge point of nostalgia for me, right? Absolutely grew up with that set and love it. Reason number 2 is that specific set, right? Let's take, if I were to go Diamond and Pearl base, right? Which that box is probably selling for around 6 at this point, give or take, depending upon if you're going to get a good deal on it. I would prefer to pay 10 grand for Majestic Dawn than I would Diamond and Pearl base, because I just enjoy the set more, right? So I'm a huge fan of the set. It's got a ton of evolutions in it, which is obviously one of the reasons why it is one of the most expensive sets within the Diamond and Pearl era, right? So it's just a matter of fact. And then number 3, a reason why someone would pay $10,000+ is because they see it as an item that they want to potentially add to their collection, and they just have to, be able to purchase a product regardless of the price to continue on their collection, right? And so I am someone that wants to be able to master set all of the Diamond and Pearl era, right? And with that, I understand that if I'm going to want to do that, especially with a lot of the singles, PSA 10ing them, it's going to require me to spend an exorbitant amount of capital over the long term span of my life. And so with that, you kind of have to ask yourself the question as like a collector, how much are you willing to spend? What are you willing to spend? What is your ultimate goal as a long-term investor? And that's one of the kind of justifications I have for myself when saying, okay, if I'm going to choose a like pocket of the market that I want to like be a collector of, what am I going to, pick and choose? And so for me, I'm going to try and own every single booster box sealed at some point as well. And then, in some instances, there's very low pop cards where it might make more sense to actually open some packs, like I've done before in the past. But those are my 3 answers. If you want me to, I can keep going on more. I don't know if you have any where you want to add, Alex.
Well, I mean, there's, like PokeRev buys them to break them down for his mystery packs, makes a profit on them. Yeah, streamers break them down. They can sell them on stream, make a profit on them because, someone could take a gamble and buy 1 or 2 or 3 packs, but they couldn't afford a $10,000 booster box. Here, I'll throw a question at you, Poke Investor. Like, if you saw the market price, and let's just say this box, like, we're given no parameters in this question, so like I could just come up with stuff like, what if the last 5 sales were 13,000, 15,000, 14,500, 13,500, 15? Who wouldn't pay 10,000 for that box? Like if you'd establish market price, like well over $10,000, I will pay $10,000 for anything, even if I know nothing about it. If I know there's a 30 to 50% margin, I don't care. Not Pokemon. I don't care what it is. I'll buy some random, antique and just flip it and make money. So it's like, there's tons of reason people will shell out $10,000, both for collecting and business and investing wise.
Yeah, dude, I can't remember if I mentioned this on stream or I've talked to you about this before. I was so sad because this was back when like I was much, much smaller, right? So I purchased my most recent Diamond and Pearl booster box in April of 2022. And what happened was on eBay, there was an individual that was selling a sealed case and multiple loose boxes. And so they were selling multiple loose boxes for like 7 grand. I put an offer for 5,500 and they accepted it. But there was a sealed case of it, right? And they were selling it for like $36,000. I think it's how much they were selling it for, which came out to $6,000 a box, which is an insanely good premium. Or like, I think that's a great deal. But like, I didn't have the money. Like I didn't just have 36 grand laying around. So dude, I was so sad because that's like once in a lifetime type of like, at least in my mind, as far as I'm aware, that's like such a once in a lifetime possibility of owning. I was like, shit, man, I would have bought that in a heartbeat. Excuse my language. So I don't know, dude. I wish I had the money to pick up something like that. That would have been such an amazing, amazing pickup.
So I swear they didn't let you do this before, but eBay lets you like scroll all the way back, at least mine, to like 2017 now purchases.
Oh yeah, I agree. It's so funny you say that.
Now they won't let you go past that. Like 2017 is where they cut it off. But dude, I was looking back, man, there's some crazy purchases back then.
I know. It's funny you mentioned that because I was talking to one of my buddies about a purchase I made back in 2017. And I was literally like, let me double check the price. I wonder if I can see that. And I remember not being able to. And I was like, oh no, I can see it. And it was super easy for me to navigate and find my older purchases. So it was kind of wild to see.
I think I'm going to do a video of some of them, just like, because people like always question, like, I guess my authenticity. They're always like, if you were in the hobby, that long ago, you'd have older boxes and stuff. It's like, oh, I did. I had them. I sold them all because it was the right thing to do. I mean, dude, a lot of my vintage boxes and vintage cars I sold in 2020, 2021 literally have just now, 4 years later, eclipsed the prices I sold them for.
Crazy.
And the amount of money I put that into other things, whether it be stocks and then back into modern Pokemon, has like triple, quadruple, 5x'd, more what a lot of that vintage stuff did in the 4 years it took just to get back to what I sold them for. It's crazy.
Yeah. So it's a volatile market, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Here, I want to see if I can actually find it. But we'll go on to the next question while I look. Last question here. So with boxes releasing at 250 these days, as investors, we think the next leg up is around 400 in a 1 to 2 year range.
That's hard, dude. Reprints play a huge factor. It's really hard. Like, put it this way. If you're talking about like SV base, Paldea, I think those can make a leg up into like the 300 to 500 range, right? Paldea is already 300. But like, man, some of these brand new sets, like, dude, Destined Journey, no, I don't think they can get there in 2 years. Like, they'll get reprinted.
Yeah, I agree.
It's gonna take new sets 3, 4, 5 years.
It just feels so unlikely that you'll get to that point.
Yeah,
I just don't see that happening. So, I mean, not to mention as well, like, I don't have a crystal ball here, but the likelihood that you're not going to see a cool down at some point in the market for some of these, like, don't get me wrong, like you do have sets like Paldea Evolved where, yeah, we can talk about it hitting $400 in a year. Like, I don't think that's super unrealistic here, but there's definitely a point where I would like to believe that you're probably saying that with these current sets that are coming out and sets that come out in the next year, there's a high probability that most of them are not going to go to around $400. Like, I just don't see that happening because there's going to be supply that's going to at least slow it down.
I mean, guys, I put it this way. I've said it in my videos. I'm not investing in Destined Rivals at 250. I'm not buying these brand new sets, $200 and something. Like, there'll be a time when I do, but like, and here's the other thing. I'm not saying I won't pay 250. I'm not paying 250 right when they release. If it's 2 years from now and I still don't have a position and it never came down and that's still 250, don't get me wrong. I will pay 250 a box, but it's just not worth it right now.
I don't want to dox myself, but April 13th, 2022, $5,500.
There it is.
There it is, baby. And then not that long after, I bought a loose one for 98. Dude, this
I guess you're not showing. It doesn't show anything, right? It just shows the seller.
It just says order total. I mean, if I click, I checked before. If you click view order details, it shows like my shipping info and everything. And I'm like, I don't need to do that. But you
don't even live there anymore. Would it matter?
What'd you say?
You don't even live there anymore.
I mean, yeah, if you guys really want to see my order details, hopefully I don't dox myself. It was DA Card World.
There you go.
Yeah, they're the one that sold it. Yeah. So bought it through PayPal. Yeah, there's my old shipping address.
Yeah, DA Card World was
where I used to live
back then.
I want to see where I used to live. But yeah, no, this was about what would that be? 2023. 2024, 2025. Wow, that was 3 years ago. Dude, time flies. That's crazy. See where things have changed since then. But yeah, dude, box was extra crispy. It was such a crispy box. I'm sad I let go of it, but I was in the process of moving and I needed money and I was kind of broke. So it was one of those purchases that I made because I knew it was a good deal. Because I knew market rate was around 7,000. So, and I ended up selling it like end of the year for, I think 7,200 is what I sold it for. So
it goes back to that question we just got about the $10,000. It's like, who would pay $5,500 for a box? Well, someone that knew the box was worth $7.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. It's a good point. That's true. But all right. I think that's a good spot to end there. Want to appreciate you guys all once again for stopping by. Make sure you leave a like, comment down below, subscribe, really helps the channel. And then of course, check out Alex and his content. Links down in the description below to check him out. Alex, got anything you want to say before we close it up?
That's it, man. It was a good stream.
All right, gentlemen and ladies, thank you all so much once again. I hope you guys all have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday, and we'll see you next week. Peace.